Oh no!
That's the cutest fucking thing I've ever seen in my entire life.
So obviously this video's premise is just a bit. I mean, I'm not stupid. Well, okay, I am stupid. I'm a vegan.
Yeah, there it is! There it is!
But I'm aware enough to realize that the purpose of these Monster Hunter games is to, you know, hunt monsters, which is inherently not vegan. Nonetheless, I've had count 'em, two people ask for me to do a video on vegan Monster Hunter. And according to YouTube analytics, 2 people is roughly 70% of my viewer base. So, I mean, I gotta give the people what they want, right?
Say the line, Bart!
Video games are a real problem.
This is, admittedly, kind of a fool's errand, because, spoiler alert, there isn't a vegan Monster Hunter game. But, as an aspiring YouTuber, I'm gonna use this as an exercise in squeezing blood from a content stone. We're gonna go through every single mainline Monster Hunter game and see just how much of the content we can enjoy before we're forced to do something non-vegan in order to progress. Then I'll throw them into a ranked list based on which is the most fun to play under these limitations. That's a grand total of 15 games that I'll be playing, all of which, I mean, I obviously own legitimate copies of. Totally didn't just spend a full day setting up 4 different emulators and pirating enough software to constitute a felony charge. Definitely didn't screw up my torrent settings and end up with a warning email from my ISP. That'd be silly. Anyway, if this concept interests you, then kick back and enjoy. If it doesn't, then just, I don't know, can you add all my videos to your watch queue and then go on a walk or something? I could really use some love from the algorithm right now. We're starting with the OG Monster Hunter, released for the PS2 back in 2004. This game kicks off with a pre-rendered cutscene showing a pack of Aptonoth grazing through a lush green field. A gorgeous sequence which truly inspires one to think, wow, I cannot wait to murder those beautiful creatures. You create a character, and it's important to remember that for them to truly be a vegan, they need to be constantly reminding everyone that they are vegan. So, obviously, I choose a fitting name.
Yes!
We finish character creation, get a load of our quaint little village, and then cut to ourselves waking from slumber, which apparently we sleep with our eyes open. You'll find that that's sort of a motif in the Monster Hunter franchise. First issue, we start with this sword and shield equipped, and that shield has a blatantly leather strap. No! We can't unequip this weapon without equipping another first, and even though the village elder gives us some cash, we can't afford to buy a different leatherless weapon, so we're kinda stuck with this thing for the time being. Honestly, if we're going with a purist perspective, from this alone, this run is no longer vegan. But when doing these vegan challenges, if the item in question is something that we have the option to not actively use, that otherwise provides no benefit, I tend to give these things a pass. Anyway, the village elder wants us to go out and pick up 2 chunks of raw meat. Now that's very not vegan. In an attempt to delay this mission, we can chat up the villagers, do some shopping for vegan supplies, and act as a general hindrance for people trying to go about with their daily lives. But at the end of the day, the game gives us no other meaningful avenue of interaction aside from doing what the village elder asks of us. We know what the explicit goal is of this quest, and working toward this goal will make our character no longer vegan. But there are a handful of activities that one can engage with to entertain themselves while out on this expedition. You can use the binoculars to take a look at nature. You can collect herbs.
Out here in Amish, smoking big doinks in Amish.
You can accidentally unplug your controller and get stuck in an input loop where you jump against this cliff face over and over. Ultimately though, a lot of the game's content is locked behind this tutorial quest. All of it, in fact. So, unless you're just really into Aptonoth watching and conversing with drunks, you'll probably lose interest fairly quickly. That's the sum of vegan content available to us in Monster Hunter's first generation. Kinda. Monster Hunter G, released exclusively in Japan in 2005, is essentially a rehash as far as content that we can reach, except 1. There's no longer room necessary to spell out "I am vegan" for your character name, so I had to settle on the less dignified "Me vegan," which we'll just roleplay as the result of limited brain function brought on by prolonged vitamin B12 deficiency. 2. The X and circle buttons have switched function for seemingly no reason. And 3. Every NPC now speaks some weird language that I can't understand.
This is a country where we speak English, not Spanish.
Unfortunately, the village elder still wants the same thing from us for this tutorial quest, even if his spelling and specificity are a little off. That's really everything of note from Monster Hunter G. I'm gonna rank this one higher just because the dialogue is a little more entertaining. In Monster Hunter Freedom, released as the first portable title of the series in late 2005, the X and circle buttons switch back to their original function. This got very confusing for me. Due to adjusted prices in the weapon shop, now we can actually afford to buy a leather-free alternative to our sword and shield. I went for the hammer because not only does it lack any obvious animal-based components, but, additionally, hammers are just the coolest weapon in the franchise. If you disagree, you're unfortunately incorrect. In this household, we spin to win. But yeah, aside from that one change, you're still tasked with collecting meat in the first quest. In order to progress through this game's story in any meaningful way, you've gotta hunt monsters. So, I'd say this is the exact same game as the last two, except the Guild Hall. In Monster Hunter Freedom, a guild hall is introduced to your village just behind the Elder, which you can enter to, theoretically, tackle a significant number of quests that don't require the tutorial mission to be completed as a requisite. And, get this, some of these quests can even be considered vegan. The problem is that the content is very, empty. You see, there are two types of vegan quests that we can take as part of this challenge. The first are these generalized, free exploration quests. In this scenario, you're dropped into a map that you can explore, observe, and gather resources within until you either run out of time or leave by grabbing a card from the blue box here and putting it into the red box here. It's cool to see the environments and varieties of wildlife, but, there isn't really a goal.
We ain't found shit.
You can complete the quest as soon as you start it. The second type are gathering quests. In one particular quest here, you're tasked with gathering and delivering 20 special mushrooms. For the record, I semi-regularly partake in the use of special mushrooms. And 20 whole mushrooms? Oh my god. I'd honestly recommend 3 grams dried. 5 grams if you're really gonna go all out with it. Anyway, collecting 20 mushrooms, while tedious and fraught with hostile monsters that you can't ethically harm in self-defense, seems arduous but doable, right? Actually, it's not. There's a limited number of mushroom spawn locations on the map, and it's physically impossible for these locations to give the total of 20 that you need to complete the quest as an unupgraded character. That doesn't make sense, right? Why would the game give you an impossible task like that? Well, the trick is it expects you to do all this while wearing armor pieces that provide bonuses to item gathering, which make it so you gather multiples of an item at a time when using a resource point rather than just the one. We can't get these special armor pieces without killing monsters for the necessary materials to craft those armor pieces. Alternatively, you don't actually need these armor bonuses if you just resort to killing creatures with a random chance of dropping these mushrooms. But, that's anathema to our whole shtick here. Not to mention, we aren't actually getting any progression from these quests. The reward is some cash and the right to keep the mushrooms. So yeah, while the additional content isn't anything to write home about, with just the addition of extra cool things to look at, Freedom ranks in as my new number 1. Okay, I know what you're thinking. Oh wow, each subsequent game just so happens to be one better than the previous. Real thought out ranking system you got there, buddy. You know what? Eat shit. Well, okay, actually don't, because that's not vegan. But we've got 12 more games to get through still. There's plenty of time to shake things up. And honestly, that's in part why I've decided to split this thing into multiple segments. We're coming up on the 10-minute mark in just a bit, and I'm only 1/5 of the way through the franchise. So, we'll continue in a future video. If I missed anything, said something you disagree with, or if you're just looking for a YouTuber to throw slurs at, put it all in the comments. I read literally everything. As always, this has been Poor Dunce, signing off and eagerly staring at his notification tab, awaiting your validation.